People always say money talks, but sometimes silence speaks louder. Jason Miller understood that better than anyone. On paper, he was everything most people dreamed of becoming. A self-made billionaire in his early 30s, owner of multiple companies, investments stacked across industries, the kind of guy who could buy anything without checking the price tag. But if you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't think twice. Simple jeans, basic sneakers, no flashy watch, no security following him around. Just a regular guy. And that's exactly how he wanted it. Jason grew up different. His father wasn't just rich, he was disciplined, old school, and big on one thing: character over cash. He used to tell Jason, "Money will show you the world, but people will show you themselves." That line stuck with him. So when Jason built his empire, he didn't let it change who he was. He didn't flex. He didn't chase validation. He stayed quiet and he watched. That's why, when it came time to get married, Jason made a decision most people wouldn't understand. He hid everything. Emily Carter came into his life through family connections. Her father and Jason's father had been friends years ago. Not close, but close enough to keep respect alive. Emily was different from most people Jason had met. She wasn't obsessed with money, didn't care about status, and had this calm, grounded personality that stood out in a world full of noise. She laughed easily, spoke honestly, and never tried to impress anyone. Jason liked that. Actually, he respected it. So when their families reconnected and the idea of marriage came up, Jason didn't hesitate. Not because of pressure, but because he saw something real. But there was one problem: Emily's family. From the outside, they looked decent. Middle to upper class, comfortable lifestyle, nothing extreme. But the way they thought? Completely different. Status mattered to them. A lot. Her father, Mr. Carter, was the type of man who judged people in seconds. What you wore, what you drove, what you earned. He noticed everything. Her mother wasn't as direct, but she followed the same mindset. And her older brother? Even worse. Arrogant, loud, always trying to prove he was better than everyone else. Jason saw all of that, and that's exactly why he stayed quiet about who he really was. At the first family dinner, Jason showed up in his usual style. Clean, simple, nothing expensive looking. He greeted everyone politely, respectful as always. But he could feel it immediately. The energy. That subtle shift when people start judging you. Mr. Carter looked him up and down, not obvious, but enough. "So, Jason," he said, leaning back in his chair, "what do you do?" Jason kept it simple. "I run a small business." Not a lie. Just not the full truth. Mr. Carter nodded slowly. "What kind of business?" "Tech-related," Jason replied calmly. Emily smiled, trying to keep things smooth, but Jason noticed everything. The tone, the expressions, the silent assumptions forming in the room. Dinner continued. But the respect? Yeah, it wasn't there. Over the next few weeks, things became clearer. Jason wasn't being treated badly, but he wasn't being respected either. There's a difference. Little comments started slipping in. Nothing too direct, but enough to feel. "You should think about growing your income. Emily deserves stability. Life isn't easy, you gotta step up as a man." Jason heard it all. And every time he just nodded, smiled, stayed calm. One evening, Emily noticed. "You okay?" she asked him quietly after dinner at her parents' house. Jason looked at her and smiled. "Yeah." "Why?" She hesitated. "They don't really understand you." Jason chuckled softly. "It's all right. People don't have to understand me." Emily looked at him for a moment, like she wanted to ask more. But she didn't. Months passed. Jason and Emily got married. Simple wedding. Nothing over the top. Jason could have turned it into a luxury event people would talk about for years. But he didn't. Because this wasn't about showing off. It was about building something real. After the marriage, things didn't change much with her family. If anything, they got worse. Now the expectations were higher. And so was the judgment. One night at dinner, her brother smirked and said, "So, Jason, when you planning to upgrade your life a little? Or you cool staying average?" The table went quiet. Emily looked uncomfortable. Mr. Carter didn't say anything. Jason took a sip of water, then smiled. I'm good where I'm at. Her brother laughed. Yeah, that's the problem. But here's the thing. Jason wasn't bothered. Not because he didn't notice, but because he understood something they didn't. When people think you're small, they show their real size. Behind the scenes, Jason was still running everything. Meetings, deals, investments, millions moving daily. But none of that showed on the surface. And that's how he wanted it. Because he wasn't just living his life. He was watching theirs. Every comment, every reaction, every moment of disrespect. He stored it all. Not for revenge, but for understanding. Because Jason wasn't hiding his wealth out of fear. He was revealing their character. And deep down, he already knew. One day, the truth would come out. And when it did, it wouldn't just shock them. It would expose them. After the wedding, Jason thought maybe things would calm down. Maybe Emily's family would start seeing him for who he really was. Not his money, not his status, just him.
But nah, it didn't go like that.
If anything, the pressure got worse. Now that he was officially part of the family, the expectations doubled. Every visit turned into a low-key interrogation. So, how's your business doing? You planning to buy a house soon? You should really think bigger, man. It wasn't advice. It was judgment wrapped in polite words.
And Jason?
He kept the same energy. Calm, respectful, never reacting. But inside, he was observing everything like a silent camera, recording people when they think no one's watching. Emily tried to balance things out. She would defend him sometimes, change the topic, or just squeeze his hand under the table like, ignore them. And Jason did. Not because he was weak, but because he didn't need validation from people who only respected numbers. But one night, things crossed a line. They were all sitting at dinner, and her brother, already a little loud and full of himself, leaned back and said, I'm just saying, Emily could have done way better. You married potential, not success. That line hit different. The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't just awkward. It was heavy. Emily looked hurt. Her mother stayed silent. And her father? He didn't correct him. That was the loudest part. Jason slowly put his fork down, looked at him, and for a second, just a second, the calm almost broke. But then he smiled again. Success means different things to different people, he said. No anger, no ego, just truth. Her brother laughed it off, thinking he won that moment. But what he didn't realize was, Jason wasn't losing anything. He was just learning who they really were. Meanwhile, outside of that house, Jason's real life was moving on a completely different level. Boardrooms, million-dollar deals, people waiting weeks just to get a meeting with him. His phone buzzing with opportunities, partnerships, expansion plans. He was building, growing, winning, just not in front of them. Because the version they saw, that was the version he allowed them to see. Then came the turning point. One afternoon, Emily's father called them over. He sounded serious. When they arrived, he got straight to the point. I've been thinking, he said, looking directly at Jason. You need to step up. This family has a certain standard. I can't have my daughter living a limited life. Limited. That word hung in the air. Emily tried to interrupt, but he raised his hand. No, let me finish. He continued. I can help you. I can connect you with people, maybe get you a better position somewhere. But you need to be honest about where you stand. Jason looked at him calmly. And where do you think I stand? He asked. Mr. Carter leaned forward slightly. Below where you should be. That was it. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear. Jason nodded slowly, like he finally understood everything he needed to understand. Not about money, but about mindset, about how people measure others, about how quickly respect disappears when they think you don't have value. He stood up, adjusted his sleeve, and said quietly, I appreciate your concern. And that was all. No argument, no explanation, just calm before the storm. Because deep down, Jason knew, the next time they see him, everything would change. A few days passed after that conversation, but something had shifted. Jason wasn't angry, wasn't distant, but there was a quiet decision made inside him. He had seen enough. Heard enough. Understood enough. It wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about letting them see the truth they had been ignoring this whole time. Then came the invitation. Emily's father excitedly told them about a high-profile business event downtown, big names, investors, luxury setting, the kind of place he always wanted to belong. "This is important," he said proudly. "You should come, Jason. Maybe you'll learn something." Jason simply nodded. "Yeah, I'll be there." The night of the event arrived, and everything about it screamed status. Expensive cars lined up outside, people in sharp suits, cameras flashing, names being checked at the entrance. Emily's family walked in together, trying to blend in but clearly impressed by everything around them. Her brother whispered, "This is the level I'm talking about." They looked around, soaking it all in, until suddenly the atmosphere shifted. Heads started turning toward the entrance again, but this time, it wasn't for them. Jason walked in, but not the version they knew. This was different. Tailored suit, confident posture, calm presence, but now powerful. The same man, but now impossible to overlook. Before Emily's family could even process it, people started approaching him, one after another. Firm handshakes, respectful nods. "Mr. Miller, good to see you. We've been waiting for your decision. Your company's expansion is impressive." The same man they questioned was the one everyone else respected. Emily stood frozen. Her father's face lost color. Her brother stopped talking completely.
And Jason?
He moved through the room like he always belonged there, because he did. After a few moments, he walked toward them. No arrogance. No attitude. Just calm truth. "What's going on?" her father finally asked, his voice no longer confident. Jason looked at him, steady and composed. "The same thing that's always been going on," he said. "You just never saw it." Silence. Then one of the event organizers stepped in, smiling. "Mr. Miller, the board is ready for you. They're waiting upstairs." That's when it hit them fully. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was reality. Jason wasn't trying to get into that world. He owned his place in it. Her brother finally spoke, but his voice had lost all its edge. You're serious?" Jason gave a small nod. "Always have been." Emily looked at him, not shocked, just understanding. Because now everything made sense. His calmness, his confidence, his lack of reaction. He never needed to prove anything because he already knew who he was. Her father tried to speak again, but the words didn't come out right. "Why didn't you say anything?" Jason's answer was simple. "Because I wanted to see how you'd treat me without it." That line hit harder than anything else that night. All those dinners, all those comments, all that quiet disrespect. Now standing in front of the truth they never bothered to look for. Jason didn't raise his voice, didn't embarrass them, didn't take revenge. He just stood there and said, "Money doesn't change people, it reveals them. And I didn't need to show mine to see yours." No anger, no ego, just clarity. He turned slightly, then paused one last time. "I never hid my success," he added calmly. "I just didn't think it should decide how you respect me." And with that, he walked away. Not to prove a point, but because he already had. That night didn't just reveal who Jason was. It revealed who they were. And that's something no amount of money can fix.